What if the people closest to you decided you were worth more dead than alive? The last clear sound I remember was my sister laughing on the deck and the sharp clink of champagne glasses. Someone squeezed my hand. Then the world shut off. When I woke up, the yacht was silent. No voices, no engines, just the slow, hollow slap of dark water hitting the hull. My head throbbed like I'd been drugged. My mouth tasted metallic. When I tried to stand, my legs buckled. I grabbed the rail and forced myself toward the bridge. That's when panic turned into certainty. The GPS screen was shattered, not cracked, smashed straight through. The radio wires were cleanly cut, not torn. Someone had taken time to make sure I couldn't call for help. I checked the ignition. No keys. My pulse spiked. I moved faster, opening cabins, checking rooms, calling names I already knew wouldn't answer. The guest rooms were empty. My sister's luggage was gone. My father's coat was gone. And then I saw it. The life rafts were missing. You don't take life rafts if you expect someone to survive. That was the moment it stopped feeling like an accident. They didn't forget me. They scheduled me. A wave slammed into the side of the yacht, spraying cold water across my face. I wiped my eyes and scanned the deck again, forcing myself to breathe. That's when another detail hit me. Mark. My fiancé's phone wasn't anywhere. Neither was his watch. The night before, he'd been quieter than usual, distracted. When my sister called him over, he let go of my hand instantly. At the time, it meant nothing. Out there, alone at sea, it felt rehearsed. I was the one holding the trust. My father didn't raise his voice or make scenes. He controlled people with calm decisions and clean paperwork, the kind that ruins you quietly. My sister fit his world perfectly. Loud, protected, untouchable. I never did. When my grandfather died, that difference became dangerous. His will left me control of the trust and the company, but there was one condition. If I died or if I was declared missing and presumed dead, before my 25th birthday, everything reverted back to them. I checked my watch with shaking hands. 3 days. Another wave rocked the yacht, harder this time. I wasn't just stranded. I was on a countdown. Then I saw movement below deck and realized I wasn't the only one they left to disappear. I didn't call out when I saw the movement. I froze. The yacht creaked as it drifted, the sound traveling through the hull like a warning. Whatever was down, there wasn't supposed to be. I stood still long enough to hear my own breathing. Then another sound, slow, careful footsteps. Not an animal. I picked up the closest heavy object and moved toward the stairs, one step at a time. The air below deck smelled wrong old wine, metal, something sour. "Don't scream," a voice whispered. I stopped. A man eased out from the shadows beneath the dining table. One eye was swollen shut. Dried blood streaked his collar. He held his hands up, not in surrender, in fear. "They were going to kill me too," he said quickly, then flinched as a wave hit the hull. "I saw them put something in the drinks." I didn't answer. I listened. He swallowed. "I tried to stop it. Your father." A noise outside made him freeze. We both turned toward the ceiling. After a long second, he continued, quieter now. "He hit me with a bottle. I think they thought I went overboard when they launched the tender." That was how he survived, by being miscounted. I asked him one question. "Why are you still here?" He hesitated, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a small waterproof drive. His hand was shaking. "They recorded everything," he said. "The cameras, he keeps them running on his boats." I stared at the drive. My father trusted footage more than people. "They didn't know I copied it," the man added. "I took it when they locked me in." That changed the shape of everything. Surviving wasn't the win anymore. Proof was, we moved the yacht at night. No lights, no calls. Halfway into the marina, a security truck slowed near the dock. Its headlights swept across the hull. I held my breath until it passed. That was when it hit me. If they saw me alive now, this wouldn't end. They wouldn't panic. They'd fix the mistake. We left the yacht and went somewhere small and forgettable. A place that smelled like bleach and old carpet. Somewhere no one would look twice. We locked the door before we plugged in the drive. I watched myself being carried across the deck. I heard my sister laugh. I heard my father say, calm and final, "It's better this way." I didn't cry, because in that moment I understood something clearly. The police weren't a safe option, not with my father's money, not with his reach, not when he still believed I was dead. The ocean didn't erase me. It preserved evidence. And once I had proof in my hands, the story stopped being about survival and became about timing. The first sign that something had shifted didn't come from the footage. It came from my phone. I hadn't turned it on since the yacht. Too risky, too traceable. But in that motel room, with the curtains drawn and the television humming low for cover noise, I powered it on for one reason only: to check the date, 3 days until my birthday. Before I could shut it back down, a single notification slipped through. A missed call from Mark. My chest tightened. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't leaving voicemails, just one call. Controlled, timed, like someone checking a door they expected to open. I shut the phone off immediately, but the damage was done. He wouldn't be calling unless something had changed. They were adjusting. We watched the footage in short bursts after that, never letting it run too long. Every time my father's voice came through the speakers, calm, certain, it felt like he still believed the plan had worked. That belief was protecting me, but it wouldn't last. Later that night, the man who survived with me, still tense, still scanning the room, spoke without looking up from the door. "They're going to hold a memorial," he said. "Soon." I looked at him. "For you," he added. "Once they say it out loud, they won't be able to walk it back." That was when the shape of the danger changed. A public story meant locked accounts, signed statements, witnesses coached into place. Anyone who didn't fit the version would be removed, including us. The drive wasn't just leverage anymore. It was exposure. If they realized it existed, they wouldn't argue. They wouldn't negotiate. They would move fast and quietly to make it disappear, along with whoever had it. I checked the lock on the door, then the window, then the hallway through the peephole. Nothing. That was worse. My phone vibrated in my hand. I hadn't turned it back on. A message preview flashed across the dark screen. "Mark, I know you're alive. Not a question, not concern, confirmation." They didn't know where I was yet, but they knew enough to start pressing. If I stayed hidden, they would tighten the net. If I surfaced too early, I'd lose control of the story. For the first time since the yacht, survival and strategy were pulling in opposite directions. And this time, I couldn't delay the choice. Because once they knew I was alive, the countdown didn't stop. It just changed sides. I didn't answer Mark. I didn't block him either. Blocking sends a message. Silence buys time. Instead, I made a decision that closed every door behind me. We checked out before sunrise. No discussion, no debate. The motel key stayed on the dresser. Cash only. No receipts. I couldn't disappear anymore. So I did the opposite. I used a card my father didn't know existed, an emergency account my grandfather insisted I keep separate. I booked a one-way flight under my legal name. Not to go home, to be seen. If Mark was testing doors, I was going to choose which one opened. At the airport, every announcement sounded louder than it should. Every man on a phone felt like a threat. The drive stayed on my body, not in a bag. If they took it, they'd have to take me with it. That was the line I crossed. On the plane, I turned my phone on. No calls. One message draft I didn't send. I landed an hour later in a city where my family did business. Not where they lived, but where their money moved. The kind of place they'd notice if something went wrong. That's when I made my first mistake. I accessed the trust. Just to check balances, just to confirm control. I didn't move anything. But access leaves a footprint. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Another message appeared. "Mark, you shouldn't have logged in." My breath caught. They weren't guessing anymore. They were watching. I kept moving, out of the terminal, into a crowd. Somewhere cameras overlapped and faces blurred together. I sent one message, not to Mark, not to my father. To a firm my grandfather trusted. 3 words only: "I'm alive. Call me." The reply came faster than I expected. "We thought so." That was the moment everything tipped. Because if they knew, then others might too. But I'd already triggered the alarm. By touching the money, I'd confirmed what my family feared most. I wasn't dead, and I wasn't waiting. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Mark, it was my sister. One word: "Where?" I smiled for the first time since the yacht. Not because I was safe, because they were scared. They'd spent days trying to bury me, and in 1 hour I forced them to come looking. They moved faster than I expected. Not my father. Mark. He was the first one to overplay. I knew it the moment my phone rang from a number I hadn't seen since the yacht. He didn't text. He didn't leave a message. He called like someone who still believed closeness could fix damage. I let it ring. The firm called seconds later. "They've filed an emergency motion," the attorney said. "Challenging control, claiming you're incapacitated. They're trying to act before the memorial." That told me everything. They weren't confident. They were rushing. "They won't win," I said, "but they'll try to drown this in noise." A brief pause. "Do you want us to proceed?" I looked at the drive resting on the table between us. "Yes," I said, "but not quietly." The man who survived with me didn't speak often, but when he did, it mattered. "Now," he said, "before they shift again." We didn't release everything. We released enough. Not to the press, not to social media. The footage went where it couldn't be spun: compliance teams, regulators, auditors. The people who don't need outrage to act. Within an hour, the trust challenge froze. Within 2, the memorial was canceled. Within 3, my father's accounts locked pending review. Mark tried again. This time a message. "Mark, we can fix this." I forwarded it. No reply. My sister didn't call. She sent one word. "Where?" She wasn't asking where I was. She was asking how exposed she'd become. That night, the survivor sat across from me, watching the city lights flicker against the glass. "They never planned for records," he said quietly. "Just fear." I nodded. Fear works until someone stops running. The next morning, I walked into a federal building with the drive in my bag. No escorts, no speeches. Just a receptionist, a clipboard, and a process that didn't care who my father was. Inside that building, timing stopped mattering. Procedure took over. I didn't watch the fallout in real time. Power doesn't explode, it collapses inward. Quietly, permanently. Later outside, my phone filled with unread messages from Mark, from my sister. From numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't answer any of them, because the countdown wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to them. And this time, there was no ocean left to hide what they'd done. They tried to erase me on a schedule, but in the end, all I did was show up on time.